Welcome to today's lesson on capitalisation. Now, I'm not even going to mention the fact that you use a capital letter at the start of the sentence. Well, there it is. I've said it already. That's the easy part. There are actually a number of curious cases, confusing cases. Just turn that off so it's quiet. Confusing cases when you might need a capital letter or might not need a capital letter. And we'll look at some of those on the board in a second. But basically we use capitals with nouns, proper nouns, not all nouns, proper nouns. And by that I mean names. Anytime you use the name of something, you need a capital letter. It could be the name of a city, it could be the name of a county, of a country, it could be the name of an institution, it could be the name of an organisation, it could be the name of a planet, or it could be the name of a day or a month. All of those situations require capital letters. So I have a few examples here. Dave, the National Gallery, which is a famous art gallery in London. The Royal Air Force, which is the British Air Force, the Air Force in Britain, and it's a name. If you just say the Air Force, you won't use capitals. But as soon as you say the Royal Air Force, you mean the RAF, which is the abbreviation we often use for the British Air Force. And so remember that anytime you use a name like the Royal Navy, it would be exactly the same thing, but the Navy, if you're talking about different navies in different countries, you're unlikely to use a capital. It's only when you're referring to the name. So I've got more examples. Monday, February, the 5th of November, Good Friday. All of these are the names of days or month, but even the 5th of November, notice we use a capital F with 5th. And Good Friday, we use capitals for both of those. Mount Everest is a famous mountain. It's the name of a mountain. The same with Lake Superior or something like that. Lake Superior is the name, and so we must use capital letters. The Hoover Dam. Notice, by the way, that we don't use a capital on the part. The 5th of November, the Royal Air Force, the Hoover Dam. The is without a capital each time. And also London, Essex, and the North. Now be careful with compass points. Usually they're not capitalised. If you say that the wind came from the south, the breeze came from the south, the wind came from the south, and you mean from that direction, then you just use a small letter. But if you're using the word the north to mean a region, it could be a region on a weather map, it could be a political region, then you'd certainly use a capital because it's the name of a region. So compass points can be confusing. Let me quickly now go through some of these comparisons. Compare the Orthodox Church with a capital C and an Orthodox Church with a little c. The first one means the institution, the Orthodox Church. So if you say the Catholic Church or the Orthodox Church, you'll need a capital C. But if you're talking about an Orthodox church in the centre of the town or a Catholic church in the suburbs, you're talking about just a building, and for that reason you just have a little c. But you'll still have a capital for Catholic or Orthodox because that's the name of the religion. So it depends whether you're talking about the institution, like here it's the institution, or you're talking about a building, in which case it will just have a little c if you're talking about a building, a church. Okay? Now look at number 2. I live in the southeast with capital letters because the southeast is the name of the region that I live in. Like Essex is the name of the county, the southeast is the name of a region, very often referred to for politics and also for areas on a weather map. So be careful with compass points. Also, look at the second example. The West put pressure on the Soviet Union. Notice that the West is capitalised. Now, it's because we don't mean just anybody in the West. We mean the countries which usually fall under this particular name, because it's a name here, it's being used as a name, and it perhaps means Europe and the United States, perhaps Canada as well. It refers to those countries, and we're talking about the Cold War in this sentence, and perhaps, well, it must be because it's the Soviet Union, and so we're talking about the East and the West not as points on a compass but as political entities, and it's a name for that political entity. So then we would use a capital letter. But the breeze came from the south, meaning just the compass point, just that direction. When you just mean that direction, you just use a small letter. Or there are ghettos in the west of the city. Here it's not a name, you're just saying in the west of the city, not the east of the city or the north of the city. And so it would certainly be just a small letter here, the west of the city. Now, I read online something which surprised me. Planets we certainly use capital letters for: Venus, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, and they are the names of Roman gods, and so it makes sense that we would use a capital letter because they are names for sure. But what about the moon, the sun and the earth? I wondered this, what about those? I usually see the sun and the moon with small letters, and the earth, sometimes you see it with a small letter. So I did some digging and I found out something which I hadn't been taught before and I'd never read before, that when we use the sun, the earth and the moon in sentences where they're treated like planets, for example, the earth orbits the sun, then we use a capital letter for the earth and a capital letter for the sun. However, I looked in Oxford Dictionary at the entry for sun, and then I looked in Oxford Dictionary at the entry for earth, and I found out that Oxford Dictionary unfortunately have been very inconsistent on this point. So you can do the same thing right now. Please go to Oxford Dictionary and look up earth and then look up sun and click for more examples, and you will see that on the earth page they use a capital letter for the earth and the sun every time they're being used like planets. However, on the sun page they do the exact opposite, and so it's very inconsistent of Oxford Online Dictionary, and I suppose it teaches you all that everybody, including the Oxford Dictionary, uses the language inconsistently. In other words, we all make mistakes. So I have put sun in brackets here with a little s because it seems to me that this rule applies more for the earth than it does for the sun and the moon, although that's a little illogical as well. But if you want to be correct always, you could just use a little letter for earth, sun and moon, because as far as I can see, it is acceptable even when you're using them as planets, although there is this inconsistency here. No wonder we're all so confused, right? Okay, look at the next one. The sun rises in the east. That's not really treating the sun as a planet. It's just saying that the body in the sky rises in the east and it sets in the west. Notice that the east is not capitalized because I don't mean a specific political region. I just mean the compass point, and I've used a little s here because it's not being really treated as a planet. And here he brought the plane back to Earth. Earth isn't being treated as a planet here, it's being treated as the ground. And if ever you use Earth in the other meaning, not as a planet, but as soil, the ground, or also as the ground in an electrical circuit, the Earth, we use it in electronics as well, you certainly won't use a capital. Okay, let's come on to Cambridge University. Cambridge University is a name. It's the name of the university, so big C, big U, capital letters. But if you want to just say I enrolled at university last year, please don't use a capital letter for university. It's completely unnecessary. You mean the building rather than a particular institution. You're not using the name of the institution anyway, so you don't need a capital letter, only for the name of the institution, just like the Orthodox Church. And the same for number 5, really. This is a mistake that I've got to own up to, because I was taught at school that mum and dad are always capitalised. Well, if you were taught the same, get that out of your head, because it's not true at all. If you use mum as a name, for example, I met mum at the cinema, that's using mum as a name. It's being if you directly address your mother as "Hi mum," that will definitely have a capital letter, because it's just like "Hi Steve," "Hi Dave," "Hi Captain Gregson," whatever it is, but "Hi mum." Mum is being used then as a name, and yes, you do need a capital. But any time you have a possessive pronoun, "I met my mum at the cinema," that's not being used as a name. It's being used as a noun, meaning a certain person in your family. It's not a name here, and so there is no capital letter in this one. The same with "my dad," or "her dad," or "his dad," or "their dad." There will be no capital letter when you see that possessive pronoun beforehand, because it's not being used as a name then. So I think I've made this mistake a lot of times, and if I have in any of my lessons, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Look at number 6, which is very similar. "I saw my sister yesterday." Yeah, no capital letter, and I would never use a capital letter for sister or brother, even though I'd been told to use it for mother and father. However, if you say "I saw Sister Mary yesterday," and Sister Mary sounds to me like a nun, because when there are nuns in the Catholic Church, they're usually called Sister Mary or Sister Sarah or whatever their name is, then this is being used as a name. Sister Mary is like a name for this person. It's a term of address. And when you use any kind of form of address, you must use capital letters. Okay, look at number 7. "Go left." Left and right are usually non-capitalized, but there is a situation when they could be capitalized, when you mean the left as a political entity. It's the name of a group of people then. The left, it means the politicians with left-wing views. So the socialists might be another word for them. But the left or the right, that would be capitalized when you mean political institution. So the left want to lower taxes. It's a political group. It's the name of a bunch of politicians. So a little bit over here again, we're going to jump back and forth. Direct speech. If it's a full sentence, yes, use a capital letter. "She said, comma, he's a good man." He with a capital H, because this is a full sentence. However, if you don't use a full sentence, please don't use a capital here. "She described him as," quotation mark, "a good man." Okay, so just because you've got speech marks, it doesn't mean you use a capital letter. It has to be a full sentence still. Now, we also use capitals for people and languages. Here I mean Americans, Russians, the Italians, the Germans, the Austrians, even the Cornish. I mean, Cornish is an adjective meaning people from Cornwall, and so the Cornish would also be capitalized. And you use it for languages as well. And also for, say, German measles is a particular disease. We'd certainly capitalise German. An Afghan hound is a type of dog, like a German shepherd. German shepherd would be capitalised. An Afghan hound has a capital A. Not other school subjects though, and again this was somewhere where I feel I picked up a wrong idea somewhere along the lines, and I honestly thought many years back that all school subjects need to be capitalised. They don't. It's only languages. Other school subjects don't need to be capitalised. The only situation you would capitalise them is if you're using them as the name of a module. So if the name of one particular topic is, I don't know, French Romance poets from the 17th century 101, yeah, French, let's call it Romantic French Poetry 101, then Romantic French Poetry will all be capitalised because it's the name of a module. And so poetry even there would be capitalised. But just because it's the name of a module, school subjects like history, geography, mathematics are not capitalised. Okay, also we use capitals with any form of address. So good evening captain, capital C. I asked Professor Smith for help. Professor Smith is being used as a name. It's like Sister Mary. It's being used as a name, as a form of address, and so we really must use capital letters. We can also see this with Prime Minister Winston Churchill. Prime Minister has capital letters. However, if we use commas here and we use an appositive phrase, we say Winston Churchill, comma, the Prime Minister, comma, then that's not capitalised. I think in some style guides they will still capitalise Prime Minister, but it's because it's such an important position. But I was quite surprised to read in, it's actually from the Oxford Style Guide, it's from Oxford Style Manual, it's New Hart's Rules, which have been around for a while. They advise never to capitalise these titles unless they're a form of address. So it's the same with Professor Smith. When it's a form of address, sure, you capitalise it. But when you say Mr. Smith, comma, a maths professor, comma, you don't capitalise it, because here it's not actually a form of address. You're just telling me about someone's job. Okay, we also use capital letters with periods, historical periods like the Middle Ages, because it's the name for that period. However, we would say the medieval period because that's not its name, it's just a simple adjective and noun. So this one wouldn't be capitalised. Lastly, please don't use it for informal addresses. I've been saying that you have to use it for forms of address. However, things like honey, sweetheart, or sir, you wouldn't use it. You wouldn't have a capital here. Good afternoon, sir. There'd be no capital here. Thanks, honey. No capital for honey. However, we do say dear sir or madam with a capital S and a capital M. And lastly, over here, we do use capitals for things like Flight 137 or Gate 11 or Route 66. And it's because these are names when you think about it. It's the name of a flight, the name of a gate, the name of a certain freeway, I think they call it. We call it a motorway in the United States. And so if it's a name, the basic idea is if it's a name, please use a capital. But there are some confusing points, especially sun, earth and moon. As I say, if you want more information, check Oxford and you'll see that they can be inconsistent too. Okay, thanks everybody for watching. Please put a like under the video if you've enjoyed it, and I hope to see you all soon.